Hey guys, what's up? So today we are now with the 10th part, I believe. This is the 10th, right? Okay, of the Sengoku Jidai series by Kings and Generals. I have really been enjoying this series, and again, I enjoy every Kings and Generals series, but I have been really enjoying this one. I don't know, maybe it's because it's like the first one of 2026 that I'm watching, but to me it's just something like, I don't know. Kings and Generals is like my favorite historical YouTuber, and just the man delivers quantity and quality at the same time. He's just amazing. But yeah, I really want to get into it and just see how this all ends, because I think after this we only have one more to go. Yeah, I predict one more episode before I'm done with it all. So I'm wondering how this is all gonna wrap up. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with Hideyoshi, Ayasu, and if the two ever have another conflict. A part of me kind of wants to see them go fight again, but I don't know. I guess we'll find out. So if you want to watch the original video by Kings and Generals, the link is down in the description down below. And if you enjoy my content and you want to help me out in any way, shape, or form, feel free to please like, comment, subscribe, and maybe even consider becoming like a Patreon YouTube member. It'd really help me out a lot. Now with that said, and now without any further ado, let's get to it, shall we? Let us watch more of Sengoku Jidai by Kings and Generals.
The end of the Kunihei Rebellion also brought the end of Hideyoshi's war in Japan. After almost a decade, he had finally pacified and united the land, fulfilling his predecessor's ambition. However, while victorious in the field, Hideyoshi would experience tragedy at home. The summer of 1591 was a black month for the Kanpaku, as his 3-year-old son, Tsurumetsu, died. His brother Hidenaga soon followed. Fearing a possible succession crisis that could plunge the Toyotomi clan into jeopardy, Hideyoshi adopted his nephew Hidetsugu and proclaimed him as his heir in the first month of the following year. Hideyoshi also appointed him as Kanpaku, while he himself retired with the title of Taiko, or retired regent. As Taiko, he could escape from the everyday duties he had to face while holding the office of the imperial regent, while still wielding significant power and remaining the military authority of the land. He also served as Hidetsugu's shield, preventing any thoughts of rebellion against the young Kanpaku.
Alright, that seems to be a really cool position. He doesn't have to deal with so much stress, but yet retains the power. Sounds pretty good. Oh, that sucks with his kid and brother. That's sad.
Here, Hideyoshi would embark on his first overseas adventure, launching the first invasion of Korea and starting the Imjin War, which we have already covered, and you can watch in great detail in our past videos. However, the appointment of Hidetsugu as Kanpaku did not really provide the smooth transition and stabilization Hideyoshi had hoped for. Instead, it created a power dipole, with the two factions clashing frequently. In 1593, Hideyoshi's second wife, Yododono, provided him with another natural son, Hideyori.
Oh no.
Hideyori's birth created even more tension.
History repeats. We're literally back where we began. Remember the earlier parts of this series where the exact same thing happened? Okay, I can't have an heir, so I'll name you as my successor. Oh wait, I suddenly have an heir now. We are literally... I feel like I'm in a time loop. I mean, if you really think about it, history is one giant time loop, because so many events and things happen all the time. Like, it feels weird, huh? It feels like history is just one giant time loop and kind of like the same story, but with like a different aesthetic every time. Oh my gosh, we are literally back where everything began. Wow. That kind of gave me goosebumps, not gonna lie. That's kind of like one of those like holy crap moments. Oh no. Okay, the lesson is, don't name an heir. Just, even if you're struggling for a few years, just wait, just be patient. I'm sure you'll eventually get an heir. Because it seems like the biggest thing is these guys jumped the gun to immediately name a successor, and then like immediately after the successor is named, they have a natural kid. So I don't know, to me that's kind of like the funniest trend of this series that has been the cause of so much of the conflict. And now Hideyoshi has fallen for the exact same like situation. Oh, that is. Oh my gosh.
Within the Toyotomi camp, as Hideyoshi now had a natural son to promote as
Oh
heir.
no.
History may not repeat, but it does rhyme, and the Toyotomi succession issue began to look very much.
I disagree. It does repeat. Like, too many events have happened the exact same way to say it can't repeat, my friend. Okay, the Oni War originated from a succession dispute within the Ashikaga? Like, Kaga. Okay, shogunate as two factions led by Katsumoto Sozen.
May not repeat, but it does rhyme, and the Toyotomi succession issue began to look very much like the crisis that sparked the Onin War, which led to
Exactly. We covered this in the first part, the first few episodes of this series. We literally are in the exact same situation. To me, that's the most wild, like, thing ever.
downfall of the Ashikaga. 2 years later, Hideyoshi was becoming increasingly more paranoid regarding his power, which led him to strip Hidetsugu of his titles, exile him to Mount Koya, and order him to commit seppuku.
Oh.
Hidetsugu complied with the Taiko's request. It was another grave mistake on Hideyoshi's part.
Oh.
3 years later, and while his Korean campaign had taken a turn towards the horrible, Hideyoshi's health began deteriorating rapidly. Sensing his end was fast approaching, and his 5-year-old son would have no male relative to protect him and handle power until Hideyori came of age, Hideyoshi formed the Gotairo. The Council of the Five Elders was made up of 5 of the most powerful daimyo in the land, designed to prevent one rising above the others. These were Tokugawa Ieyasu, Maeda Toshie, Ukita Hidei, Usugi Kekiketsu, and Mori Terremoto. They swore to handle political affairs, to protect and guide Hideyori, and ensure his succession. On the 18th of September 1598, at Fushimi Castle, the Taiko drew his last breath.
Oh man. Rip Hideyoshi, bro. Yeah, like I said, of the 2 characters in this entire series that I naturally took notice of and gravitated towards, it was Ieyasu and it was Hideyoshi. Like, I tend to do that in these series where I'll just find a random person and then immediately just become, like, treat them as if they were the main character. And in a way, I was kind of right with this one, because they kind of were the main characters, especially Hideyoshi. But, oh, that's not good. As I think we've covered with the Korean invasion, and, I believe that that's where Admiral Yi, you know, took stage. We covered the Admiral Yi series by Extra History. We know things did not go well, for Japan because Yi existed. But yeah, that's not a. It's kind of sad to see Hideyoshi fall because after a lifetime of brilliance, you know, on the battlefield and in the political scene, he kind of fell apart there at the end. He stumbled. His finish wasn't as strong as the rest of his run, you get me? Because, yeah, the whole, succession thing issue that he fell into, apparently that mistake of getting rid of his nephew, Kings in General said is a mistake, so I guess we'll see in what way that will materialize. But also just, yeah, his son, and then him falling apart, his failed invasion of Korea, just, it kind of is kind of tragic, because he seemed to have stumbled and kind of, you know, not finished as strong for a guy who overall had a spectacular career. And this could either, I don't know about this whole council thing, I feel like these guys are very ambitious, and this is still a 5-year-old kid. I think they, I don't know, man. I don't have a good feeling about this. I understand the move, though, like, his worry and whatnot, but I don't know. I get a bad feeling about this. It's kind of like when Alexander had, like, his son, and then the rest of the Diadochi kind of just immediately split up everything. I'm kind of getting that vibe, but we'll see. Maybe it'll all work out, but I don't know. I kind of have a bad feeling that everything that Hideyoshi worked for is now about to fall apart.
He had risen from humble peasant origins to become the most powerful man in Japan. With his death, he would claim an even greater honor and become a god, leaving behind an everlasting legacy as the second unifier of Japan. But for now, the way was open for Ieyasu to pursue his own ambitions and become shogun.
Oh my goodness. Oh man. Again, rip Hideyoshi, bro. Rest in peace. The man was spectacular. But yeah, now Ieyasu, ever the opportunist and the cunning man. I'll say, like, Hideyoshi, him and Hideyoshi were pretty, I'd say, equal in many ways. Or at least, like, you know, in terms of, like, skill and in ways intelligence. So with Hideyoshi gone, I feel like, yeah, Ieyasu kind of is going to be a bit left unchecked. Because I don't see anyone else kind of rivaling him in the battlefield and whatnot. So I guess if there's an opportunity to, like, do something, it is now for him, right?
By 1598, the war in Korea had taken a turn for the worse for the Japanese, and Hideyoshi's health had begun rapidly deteriorating. The entire clan of the Toyotomi was in great jeopardy, for Hideyoshi's son Hideyori was only a 5-year-old child. As the Taiko could sense his end coming, and wanted to secure a smooth transition of power to his son, he created a council of 5 powerful daimyo to rule the land in his stead and guide young Hideyori until he came of age. The chosen 5 were all of relatively equivalent military strength, thereby preventing any one of them from concentrating enough power to overthrow the Toyotomi hegemony. These 5 elders consisted of Maeda Toshie, Okita Hidie, Uesugi Kagekatsu, Mori Terumoto, and Tokugawa Ieyasu, who was by far the strongest and richest of them. In addition to the Council of the 5 Elders, Hideyoshi facilitated the transition of power by creating a set of laws designed to maintain the balance of power. Toyotomi Hideyoshi died in September of 1598, thus ending the life of the peasant who had become a dictator and unified Japan. Not long after his death, Ieyasu began making his moves, creating a web of alliances through marriage in order to consolidate power. This was an open defiance of Hideyoshi's laws forbidding this practice for that exact reason. The most prominent of these marriages was that of Ieyasu's 6th son, Teruteru, to the daughter of Dete Masamune. Naturally, the rest of the Council of 5 objected to this. Still, Ieyasu's military might prevented them from escalating into open conflict with him, and the matter was eventually smoothed over. The only man who dared to oppose Ieyasu was Ishida Mitsunari, who held significant power within the Toyotomi government. Lacking the political and military power to confront the Tokugawa daimyo by himself, Mitsunari approached Nobunaga's old general, the elderly Maeda Toshie, and attempted to pit him against Ieyasu. However, this conflict between the two most powerful men of the realm was prevented by Hosokawa Tadaoki, a friend to both Ieyasu and Toshie. Tadaoki convinced Toshie's son that it was in his family's best interests to keep Ieyasu around as a counterweight to Mitsunari. After his plan to turn the Maeda against the Tokugawa failed, Mitsunari attempted to have Ieyasu assassinated, with the latter narrowly escaping the attempt on his life.
Holy crap.
Not long after, it was Mitsunari's turn to face mortal peril. Toshie had thus far shielded Mitsunari from the military faction of the Toyotomi government, but that shield evaporated after Toshie passed away. In the early spring of 1599, a group of Toyotomi generals attempted to arrest and execute Mitsunari while he was leaving Toshie's residence at Osaka. These men harbored deep hatred for Mitsunari since the days of the Korean War, accusing Mitsunari of underreporting their achievements and sabotaging the campaign. However, Mitsunari was informed of their attempt and was able to escape secretly, allegedly inside a woman's palanquin. After getting out of Dodge, he made his way to Fushimi, seeking the protection of none other than Tokugawa Ieyasu. Ieyasu, who must have known of Mitsunari's machinations, sheltered him from the generals and escorted Mitsunari to the safety of a Shida domain. The death of the elderly Maeda Toshie had presented Ieyasu with a golden opportunity, as now there was virtually nobody left in the capital with enough political influence to oppose him.
Oh my gosh, dude. Just the way he played the long game. Like, the way he managed to circumnavigate this entire so much conflict. Again, the most bold we ever saw him was when he straight up fought Hideyoshi, but the way he, after that conflict, he immediately kind of found himself working with him again. He's really good at that, kind of integrating himself with people, showing himself competent, but apparently not dangerous enough for people to immediately take action. At least that's what they think. Kind of keeping him around as an ally, helping him. Like, his way of like integrating himself with people, um, keep keeping himself in a position where people want to kind of still keep him around, and just waiting until the perfect time to strike. He is such a great opportunist who played the long game. And now it's like kind of like we're at the point where it seems it's all going to now culminate and pay off for him, all his years of kind of playing the game and just doing it in a really great way. Like, this guy, I mean, we'll see how this goes. But if he pulls it off, I'm gonna be like, holy crap, that, I don't know, I'm gonna fanboy, I'm not gonna lie.
Ieyasu stepped in as the prepubescent Toyotomi Hideyori's sole guardian and moved into Osaka Castle, the young heir's residence. It was during this time that another plot to assassinate Ieyasu was discovered. With his grip on Osaka secured, Ieyasu began planting his own men in key positions and winning over those who opposed him by granting them fiefs. While these moves angered the elders who opposed Ieyasu, they were not exactly in a position to oppose him with force, being either busy facing rebellions within their own lands or beholden to Ieyasu for military or political aid. However, there was one elder with the military strength to rise up against Ieyasu. From his home at Sawayama, Mitsunari had been exchanging correspondence with Uesugi Kagekatsu, enticing him to strike the Tokugawa. However, word of Kagekatsu's war preparations, mainly the construction of a new castle at Kazashigahara, soon reached Ieyasu's ears. In early spring of the following year, Ieyasu summoned Kagekatsu to come to the capital and explain his actions. He received the pithy reply that the construction was nothing more than the yearly maintenance that was normally required. In May 1600, Ieyasu sent Fujita Nobuyoshi to Echigo to act as his envoy and convince Kagekatsu to travel to the capital. However, as soon as the man had set foot on Uesugi's domain, Kenetsugu accused him of being a spy and tried to have him arrested and executed. Nobuyoshi was able to escape by the skin of his teeth and reported on Kagekatsu's hostility. In late July, Ieyasu left Osaka and moved to Edo, where he gathered his forces before leading his army to Aizu to confront the Uesugi threat. Before leaving for Edo, Ieyasu convinced his longtime and trusted friend Tori Mototada to stay and guard Fushimi against any potential move from Mitsunari and his allies. This turned out to be the right move, because as soon as he departed, Mitsunari began assembling an anti-Tokugawa coalition. The Council of Five member Mori Teramoto was easily persuaded to join the pro-Toyotomi Western Army as its nominal commander. At the same time, 3 of the elders signed a letter of impeachment, which detailed 13 of Ieyasu's crimes and violations of the late Taiko's laws. Wasting little time, Ishida took over Osaka Castle, with the intent of taking the family members of various rival generals who lived there as hostages, forcing them to either ally with him or at the very least not oppose him. However, this plan backfired when Mitsunari's men tried to capture Hosokawa Tadaoki's wife, Hosokawa Gracia, resulting in her suicide at the hands of one of her servants.
Oh my gosh.
Gracia's death naturally solidified the Hosokawa family's position at the side of the Tokugawa faction, despite Mitsunari's wish to sway them to his. Gracia's sacrifice also caused a general uproar among the clans against Mitsunari's behavior, forcing him to abandon his plan.
Oh my gosh, what a complete disaster. Oh my gosh. Dude. I'm kind of at the edge of my seat. I'm just wondering, like, is he gonna win? Like, is he gonna be the new master of Japan? You know, Ieyasu? Or he keeps saying Ieyasu, so I'm yeah, either way. So, oh my gosh.
2 days later, a part of the Western Army, led by Kobayakawa Hideaki, Shimazu Yoshihiro, Ukita Hidie, and Nabeshima Katsushige, marched to Fushimi Castle with 40,000 men and laid siege to it on August 27th. However, the 2,000-strong garrison that was led by Mototada and Matsudaira Ietada was determined to fight to the death and buy as much time as possible for Ieyasu to wrap up his campaign against the Uesugi and turn to face the Western Army. Over 10 days, the besiegers made little progress, for not even their burning towers were able to dissuade the defenders. Yet they were soon betrayed by a turncoat from within, who opened the gates for the attackers.
Ooh.
Even as hundreds of enemy troops swarmed the castle's defenses, Mototada refused to surrender, fighting with 200 remaining loyal men until each one had been cut down by the enemy or committed seppuku. The following day, the pro-Tokugawa Maeda Toshinaga successfully attacked his own brother at Daishoji Castle, forcing the commanding general Yamaguchi Nunenaga to commit seppuku. 9 days later, Ishida's forces had reached Ogaki Castle in Mino Province, but the damage had already been done. When word that Mitsunari had raised an army reached Ieyasu, he immediately halted his campaign against Kagekatsu and marched towards Owari with the majority of his troops. At the same time, a smaller division under his son Hideyasu remained in Aizu to keep the Uesugi army in check. Ieyasu then dispatched 16,000 men under Fukushima Masanori ahead of him along the Tokaido Road. He also appointed his generals Koroda Nagamasa, Honda Tadakatsu, Ii Naomasa, and Hosokawa Tadeoki to reinforce the defenders of Kyosu Castle, which was held by the pro-Tokugawa Osaki Genba, and to wrestle control of Gifu Castle from Oda Hidenobu, who had weirdly thrown in his lot with the Toyotomi faction. Oda Hidenobu was none other than Nobunaga's grandson, whom he
Oh. Okay. Sorry, I was just reading that.
Hideyoshi had used during the Kyosu Conference to supplant Oda authority. He had been an infant back then, and in adulthood would bizarrely side with the clan of the man who had usurped what was rightfully his. On the 28th of the same month, Gifu came under attack from the forces of the Eastern Army, who captured the castle with ease. Thereafter, Hidenobu was placed under arrest in one of the nearby mountain monasteries to await his fate. The next day, the Tokugawa forces occupied the Akasaka Heights in order to put pressure on Ogaki Castle. While the Eastern Army moved with astonishing speed, the Western Army was disjointed, as Mitsunari's allies dragged their feet to Ogaki, or remained entrenched within Osaka. This dithering gave Tokugawa's forces the necessary time to protect Kyosu and capture Gifu. Ieyasu arrived at Akasaka on November 20th, where he set up camp on a small hill called Okayama. Ieyasu's arrival caused a commotion among the Western Army's generals, who nonetheless decided to test the waters and conduct a small raid on the eastern camp, led by the legendary samurai Shima Sakon. Sakon left half of his 500-man force in an ambush position as the rest of the group crossed the Kuisagara River at the bridge and attacked the eastern camp, where the Tokugawa general Nakamura Kazuuji was positioned. Nakamura counterattacked, pursuing the western forces across the bridge, whereupon he fell right into Sakon's ambush.
Dang.
However, Nakamura's men were reinforced by those of another commander, Arima Toyouji, preventing Sakon from pushing onto the other side of the river. The setting sun forced the two sides to retreat back to their camps. While the skirmish hadn't achieved much other than destroying the bridge, it made evident to Mitsunari and the rest of the western generals that their position was not ideal. Ieyasu could easily bypass Ogaki and march directly to Sawayama and Osaka. During their night conference, Shimazu Yoshihiro suggested a night attack, noting that Tokugawa's men were likely exhausted from their long and speedy journey. Ukita Hidie supported this idea, but Sakon disagreed and insulted Yoshihiro by saying that only cowards and weaklings would use such tactics. Since the numbers clearly favored them, Sakon added, they would surely emerge victorious from a pitched battle. In the end, Mitsunari concluded that the best course of action was to retreat a few miles to the southwest of Ogaki, where the roads converged, and they could intercept Ieyasu's forces no matter what. After leaving behind 7,000 to 8,000 men to defend Ogaki, the rest of the Western Army moved and took positions at these crossroads, a place called Sekigahara. Already at Sekigahara was Kobayakawa Hideaki, who had perched himself atop the nearby high ground of Mount Matsuo with 20,000 men. Ishida would place his own headquarters and 6,000 men opposite Hideaki near Mount Sasao, where the levies of Shima Sakon, Gamo Bitchu, Shimazu Toyohisa, and Shimazu Yoshihiro joined him.
Is that artillery? They have artillery? Holy crap, that's like the first time I've seen artillery in this series. It looks like artillery, like cannons. Okay, that's interesting. That's very interesting. And yeah, they do have the numbers advantage. I mean, look at all those units. So, it does seem like the numbers do favor them. Man, I'm like wondering if how Ieyasu's gonna pull this one off, because this seems like quite the challenge, you know?
In addition, 2,000 Toyotomi soldiers under Oda Nobutaka, Kishida Tadauchi, and Ito Norimasa took up positions there. Towards the center, and in front of Lake Ikedera, Konishi Yukinaga positioned his own 4,000 troops. At the foot of Mount Tengu, Ukita Hideie took up the center of the Western Army's lineup with his 17,000 soldiers, and just to the left of Hideaki's camp were Otani Yoshitsugu, Todo Shigemasa, and Otani Yoshikatsu, leading no more than 6,000 men total. Their deployment meant that Ieyasu's force would be drawn into a position where Hideaki's troops could easily come down the mountain and attack the exposed flank.
It's true, that's what I was thinking. It's like kind of like one giant like U. So like if they go like forward and attack the center, not only do they have to worry about the uphill battle, which is never a favorable position to fight in a battlefield, right? But also like there are plenty of units on the side, so they can just rush down and then just like, yeah, they seem to have the more favorable position at the moment. I don't know how Ieyasu could overcome such a situation, you know?
Securing their victory. Moreover, Mitsunari could always count on the forces of Mori Hidemoto, Kikawa Hiroie, and Chosokabe Morichika, who were just around Mount Nengu and could attack Ieyasu's army at its soft underbelly.
Dang. It's like he's surrounded. Oh my gosh, is he gonna lose? Like...
As Ieyasu became aware of Mitsunari's movements, he ordered the Eastern Army to move towards Sekigahara. As the Eastern Army poured into the valley, Kuroda Nagamasa, Hosokawa Tadaoki, and an assembly of other Tokugawa generals took up positions opposite Mitsunari's army with a total of 20,000 men. Behind them was another reserve force of around 11,000 men. At the center of Ieyasu's formation, and just opposite Ukita Hideie, was Fukushima Masanori with 6,000 men. The Tokugawa generals Toru Takatora and Kyogoku Takatomo covered the left flank, with 2,500 and 3,000 men respectively. Further behind were the Tokugawa generals of Terazawa Hirotaka, Hondo Tadakatsu, and Togawa Michiyasu, with no more than 3,500 men. Ieyasu's own contingent of 30,000 deployed in the rear, at the foot of Mount Momokubari, while regiments belonging to Arima Toyouji had deployed along the Nakasendo Road. As the fog that had masked their movements disappeared, Naomasa charged towards Ukita Hideie's lines. His attack entrained into Fukushima Masanori, who too wanted the honor of being the first to clash with the enemy. Before long, the rest of the Eastern Army followed suit. Tadaoki and his adjacent Tokugawa generals launched a coordinated...
Alright, they're just going for it. Like, I was gonna be like, is he gonna, like... A part of me was wondering, like, how he was gonna approach this situation, considering that, yeah... I don't think it looked good to be in the valley while all the enemies on high ground, almost kind of like around you in some U-shape. I didn't think he was actually gonna give them battle, but... Yeah, I guess he's just like, okay, we're gonna go for it. Oh man, I'm kind of worried for a second. He's like the only character I'm following now, so I'm just like, if he loses, just I don't know where the heck we go from here. Especially since we got like at least one more after this, you get me? So like, a part of me is kind of worried for him. But yeah, it just seems like they're just gonna go on the attack now, huh?
Assault towards Mitsunari's position, smashing into the defensive lines of Shimasakon and Gamobichu's position. To support this attack, Togawa Michiyasu and Ukoma Kazumasa moved their arquebusiers forward and fired on Mitsunari's men. On almost the other end of the battlefield, Tokugawa forces, under the command of Kyogoku Takatomo, Todo Takatora, and Terazawa Hirotaka, fell on Otani Yoshitsugu's position. The battle was the fiercest on Kuroda Nagamasa's flank, for he harbored personal hatred towards Mitsunari ever since the end of the Korean War. It was there, in the heat of the battle, that a bullet hit Shima Sakon.
Ooh.
While the legendary samurai was safely transferred to the rear, he later succumbed to his wound. Thus, Mitsunari was deprived of one of his most loyal and brilliant generals.
Dang.
With
Holy crap. Oh yes, the artillery.
the help of cannon fire, Mitsunari was able to push the Tokugawa forces back. In response, Kato Yoshiaki and Hosokawa Tadaoki redoubled their efforts. The fight progressed in this manner almost across the entire battle line. One side would push the other, then it would get pushed back. Yet cracks were already starting to appear in the Western Army. Kobayakawa Hideaki's men remained perched on Mount Matsuo, having wasted the opportunity to attack the flank of the Tokugawa forces. The Shimazu too had yet to commit to the fight, and remained on the small hill they occupied. Mitsunari rode personally to Lord Yoshihiro to ask him to engage with the enemy, as the proud Shimazu daimyo had previously rejected the order that was delivered by a messenger. Ishida had little luck, as Yoshihiro more or less replied that each clan should prioritize saving its own skin.
Oh snap.
Mitsunari returned to his camp.
He literally said, every man for himself, my man. Oh boy, man. Okay, this is a really epic clash, though. Oh boy.
Hoping that Yoshihiro would join the fight when he found the opportunity he wanted. For now, he could only rely on the yet uncommitted forces of Hideaki and the Mori troops beyond Mount Nangu. Around 11 AM, Mitsunari was feeling confident that the time for the pincer move had come, and signaled for the Mori and the Kobayakawa forces to attack. Hideaki made no move even when Mitsunari repeated the signal. Similarly, Mori Hidemoto remained in position on the other side of Mount Nangu alongside Lord Hiroie of the Kakawa clan. Unbeknownst to Mitsunari, both Hiroie and Hideaki had contacted Ieyasu weeks before the battle, offering to turn to his side. Hiroie was acting on the orders of Lord Mori Teramoto, who was anxious about losing his territory and wanted to keep out of the conflict as much as possible. Hiroie acted on his Lord Teramoto's wish by blocking Hidemoto, who genuinely wanted to support the Toyotomi cause.
Dang, holy crap. It's all falling apart. Like I was saying, the position was bad, but it seems like the big problem, you know, with the coalition is it seems to be coordination. Like the pincer, like over there with the other guy perched on the mountain, he didn't attack at all, and he's not attacking still. And now you have this defection. It does seem like at some point the coalition doesn't seem as united as I thought they would be on paper. There's cracks among them, you get me? While Ieyasu is his camp is fairly how do you say, unified. And then this move right here of getting an ally, like, I think he's gonna pull it off.
As well as obstructing the Chosokabe force. The story was a bit different for the 19-year-old Hideaki, who was truly conflicted as to which side to support. Still, it seems that his eventual betrayal expressed the collective desire of the Kobayakawa clan and his retainers. Around noon,
Betrayal, oh my gosh, it's all going well for Ieyasu, holy crap.
Hideaki's men finally descended from the mountain. However, their target was Otani Yoshitsugu's group, and not Fukushima Morimasa's flank. Yoshitsugu's men were already engaging the Tokugawa forces on their front, and stood no chance as the Kobayakawa forces cut through them like a hot knife through butter.
Holy crap. The flank, the oldest trick in the book, just completely, what was meant, oh, holy crap.
Realizing the battle was lost and escape impossible, Yoshitsugu asks one of his retainers to kill him. Hideaki's men continued to push, reaching Hideie and Yukinaga's lines, while Ina Masa engaged the Shimazu. With the Western Army collapsing, Hideie and Yukinaga fled to the safety of the mountains. Yoshihiro too was able to escape after his nephew Toyohisa put up a fierce defense to stop Namasa's cavalry, dying in the process. While pursuing the fleeing Yoshihiro, Namasa was struck by arquebus fire. His men broke off the pursuit and carried their wounded lord to the camp. While Namasa would survive the battle, he would eventually succumb to his wounds 18 months later. So it was that Yoshihiro and the rest of the Shimezu were free to flee towards the south to Mount Nangu. There they were seen by the still stationary Mori and Chosakabe troops, who realized the battle was lost. Finally, Mitsunari escaped to the mountains with a few of his close retainers. The battle was over, and Ieyasu was now free to move to the capital and tie up any loose ends.
Dang.
You may have wondered where Ieyasu's son Hidetada and his 36,000 men had been during the battle. After all, the original plan was for him to follow the Nakasendo Road and link up with the main force in Mino. However, Hidetada chose to instead stop and lay siege to Ueda Castle. Ueda's lord, Sanada Masayuki, had joined the Toyotomi faction alongside his youngest son, even as his eldest son, Nobuyuki, was fighting for the Tokugawa. This wasn't a family split over politics, but rather the circumstances of how Masayuki had married his sons. Yukimura had married the daughter of Otani Yoshitsugu, while Nobuyuki married the daughter of Honda Tadakatsu. Thus, each Sanada brother joined the side of their father-in-law. It was both an unfortunate and convenient position for Masayuki. For whatever the outcome of the battle, the Sanada clan could profit.
Dang.
For the time being, he has to...
Very smart. Masayuki has been a very interesting person in this entire time, because there are times I thought, okay, he should probably be taken out. Or I thought he would be taken out, rather. And then he just keeps finding ways. Like, he wanted his castle, he got it, now he's been kind of chilling, and he found ways to defend it through his traps and tricks, so... Very interesting guy overall. Very shrewd and cunning, though his ambitions aren't like, you know, conquer all Japan. Mainly just benefit and get what he wants and then chill out. So I kind of respect him for that.
Face Hidetada's massive army outside his walls, with no more than 2,000 of his own men. Still, Ueda's defenses proved impregnable, and the few skirmishes around the castle had no major outcome. Having wasted enough time, Hidetada finally broke the siege at his father's orders and hastened to join the main body, but by the time he arrived, it was already all over. Similarly late for the main battle were 15,000 men of the Western Army, led by Mori Motoyasu, Tachibana Muneshige, and Sakushi Hirokado, who laid siege at the castle of Otsu near Lake Biwa. The victory at Sekigahara was the most crucial point of the war, but not exactly the end. Losing no time, Ieyasu marched to Sawayama, where, after a brief siege, Mitsunari's father committed seppuku, and the castle fell. Not long after, Mitsunari himself was captured. He was executed in Kyoto, in a public showcase of who was the master of Japan now. As for Ukita Hideiie, he initially went into hiding in Satsuma, but was discovered in 1603 and subsequently sent into exile to Hachijojima, where he lived until his death in 1655. Ieyasu was more lenient towards Mori Teramoto, who, after all, hadn't actually fought against him. Still, he hadn't remained neutral either, and so Ieyasu reduced his territory to 1/4 of his possessions, awarding the rest to Kikawa Hiroie. At that time, Ieyasu made no move against Toyotomi Hideyori, who was still a child. His war had been with Mitsunari, and perhaps he felt no need to stir more controversy by attacking the defenseless boy. Or maybe he thought that the Toyotomi clan would no longer cause any trouble.
He thought, or will they? Okay, we have one... I'm gonna end the video right here, but we have one more episode, guys. And again, I've really enjoyed watching Ieyasu's entire journey, and now he's like at the pinnacle. All the years of playing sides, making the right alliances, being incredibly opportunistic, seems to have paid off. But that's the thing, like, I'm like wondering now, like, you know, what's the... How is this gonna end? Is he gonna be the ultimate, like, winner, or is he about to have a really hard fall? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that'll be tomorrow. So, I'll see you guys then. Bye, everyone.